Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for my Game Week 33 team selection video where we'll be thinking about transfers, potential injuries around the grounds and also choosing our captain finally. And guys, if you enjoy this one, make sure to drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get started with Game Week 32 scores. Now, 61 points in Game Week 32, to me, didn't feel like it was too bad. This didn't seem like a bad game week, but it wasn't enough to give me a green arrow. In fact, a small red arrow for me, unfortunately, this game week. And it's just a bit of a shame. I think there's some things that could have gone a little bit better, potentially. But I think the big thing was that Foden miss. That fact that Foden was unfortunately going to be on the bench in that game last game week meant that I was kind of forced, in a way, into making a transfer to try and get enough players on the pitch in many ways. Many injury problems, of course, and rotation problems hitting my squad of late. And Eze was the player I bought in. Unfortunately, could not get anything against Man City. Maybe a little bit unfortunate. He did look dangerous in some areas and could have had a penalty, but at the same time, it didn't come off. It didn't come off, and therefore, we go into Game Week 33 with a less than perfect score. But at least we got the captaincy right with the Salah versus Palmer debate settled by the end of the game week, with Salah scoring a couple more points than Palmer, but enough to make a small difference. But overall, a poor game week. Really, not a terrible game week, but certainly looking forward, I'm feeling optimistic, as I always do, because we are setting up very much for Game Week 34. But we've got to deal with 33 first. So I do have one free transfer. I've got 1 million in the bank, so let's see what we can do with it, starting off with our current team, which involves Kelleher in goal, which I think might be his final game before getting, benched for Alisson. Alisson nearing a return, but I think Kelleher should be good to go for this final game week at home against Crystal Palace. Is a very nice fixture indeed, with Crystal Palace lacking a little bit of firepower in those final areas. And Liverpool, their defensive numbers are actually pretty good at the moment. They're coming in at second in the table for defensive, for expected goals conceded, with only Arsenal ahead of them. So Kelleher, clean sheet against Crystal Palace, I think is reasonably likely. After that, we've got Gabriel in defence against Aston Villa. Now, obviously, this is not the perfect fixture for a defender, with Aston Villa a team more than capable of scoring goals, but Arsenal's defence is so good. You really do back them to keep a clean sheet against anyone at the moment. And the clean sheet odds for Arsenal this game week are at around 50%. So a 50-50 chance of a clean sheet. And also, we always have the potential for attacking returns from our good friend Gabriel. Aït-Nouri is my next pick. He has currently got a flag, a Dorito of death next to his name, which is very, very unfortunate. But I do actually feel like he is likely to play this game week. Apparently, the injury is nothing significant, and he should be good to go against Nottingham Forest, which is a very nice fixture indeed for him. So as long as he can play and hopefully play again in those dangerous attacking areas, he could do a little bit better than he did last game week, with just 4 points last week for winning the penalty. But you have to be in those kind of areas to get these really high scores, and Aït-Nouri is very much a player capable of, a big haul at some point, especially if we can manage to get more than 60 minutes from him. If we can get a clean sheet and potentially an attacking return as well, that could look very nice indeed. And finishing off my defense, we've got Pervis Estupiñán. Do not even ask me how this guy is still in my team. I've just had other fires to put out throughout the past couple of months, and I haven't had a chance to remove him. But thankfully, maybe this game against Burnley could actually be pretty decent. Now, as long as Estupiñán starts in this game, and that is a big if, because we're not 100% sure if he will be starting or not, it could be good, because Brighton's defensive numbers are actually up at the moment. They're looking pretty strong defensively, with that Arsenal game maybe as the exception. But, this is Arsenal we're talking about. But aside from that, been fairly strong defensively, Brighton. And Estupiñán is more than capable of getting clean sheet points against this Burnley side. So fingers crossed he can finally repay the faith that I've shown in him. Maybe the faith that I'm showing in him has been incidental, but still, he's still in the squad. Maybe he can reward me this game week. In midfield, we've got Mo Salah with a home game against Crystal Palace, and you always got to back Salah in any home game that he faces. I have to say, though, Crystal Palace, not as bad defensively as you might think, so I don't think Salah is necessarily guaranteed a haul, but what we know is he'll get plenty of chances to score, and he's done that over the past few game weeks since his return. Plenty of chances to score, but not necessarily always finishing them, which has been an issue with him. Penalties always a factor as well, which is very, very useful. Saka is the next player I have in my team, and I really like this fixture for Saka so long as he can start, and I believe he will and should start in this game, because Aston Villa defensively are terrible at the moment. They really are looking so bad defensively, conceding so many chances. In fact, over the past 5, 6, 7 game weeks, only Manchester United are putting up worse defensive numbers at the moment. So we're talking about an Aston Villa side that is competing defensively with the likes of Luton Town and kind of teams like like that. Newcastle are way ahead of them now. You know, Burnley are way ahead of them now. It really is a real nice fixture for an attacker at the moment. So really like the look of Saka for game week 33. Think he can seriously do some damage. And then after that, we've got that nice double game week. So I really would like some more Arsenal attack in my team for this game week. I'm feeling very confident that Arsenal can score 3 or 4 goals, actually, against Aston Villa, particularly as they will now be missing Douglas Luiz, a key player in those defensive positions for Aston Villa. This could really be a big scoreline indeed. I think Aston Villa will also score, though, in that game. Phil Foden is the big problem in my team this game week. And my whole plan, my whole strategy has involved Foden playing in this game against Luton, and it was going to be amazing. Everything was going to be fantastic. Foden was going to score a bunch of goals and everything was going to be delightful. But a small knock in the Champions League has meant that Foden is now at risk. He is now a little bit of a doubt. Now, I think he is going to be fit. I don't think there's any injury here from what I have heard, from what I have seen. So therefore, he's possibly going to be on the bench again. And that is something that really, really worries me. Now, thankfully, Man City do play on the Saturday, so there's a good chance we get early team news for Foden and news of whether he is going to start or not. And if we do get that news that he is starting, he's very much a hold, very much a keep, and arguably a player you should be buying as well, actually. So, Foden, I don't think the battle is over yet with Foden. I've not given up quite yet, but I have to recognise the possibility that Foden does not start in this game at all, and that could cause some issues for me. Palmer against Everton is not such a bad fixture either. Another home game. My whole team has got home fixtures this week, by the way, guys. But yeah, Palmer maybe didn't produce as much for Chelsea last game week as a lot of people had hoped for against Sheffield United. And Chelsea in general are a team that are just worrying in general. But Palmer has been that star. You know, he's been very, very good in the dangerous areas, taking shots on, creating for his teammates on the penalties, as we know, and some set pieces as well. And it all is going to amount to more FPL points. So still a player I'm very confident in to own against Everton, although I'm not sure he's necessarily captain material for this particular game week. Up front, Erling Haaland against Luton Town. An absolute no-brainer kind of player for this game week. Fabulous fixture. We are pretty confident that he is going to start in this game, you would probably say. And the key thing here with Haaland is De Bruyne. And since De Bruyne was rested in the first Champions League game against Real Madrid, I would expect De Bruyne now to start against Luton. And if De Bruyne is starting with Haaland, then Haaland is going to be very dangerous indeed. When these two players play together, that spells goals. It spells goals. It really does, especially in a fixture at home like this that is just so appealing. Moving on to Darwin Nunez, again against Crystal Palace, another Liverpool player in my squad. I think he's probably going to start again against Crystal Palace, which is good. Liverpool don't really have too many options until the likes of Jota can return to fitness. So Darwin, a mainstay in the team. He has been a bit of a crazy FPL asset to own recently, but at the end of the day, he is getting attacking returns, and that's all you can ask from him, really. However he does it, it doesn't matter. The points all count the same, don't they? And Solanke is our final selection in the first 11 for now. Manchester United, as I mentioned earlier, is a phenomenal fixture at the moment. They are just crazy all over the place defensively, and that is going to spell opportunities. I think a few people have been disappointed with Solanke recently, but I think a big part of it is that Solanke hasn't necessarily got the chances that he would want to have to take shots on goal. And against Manchester United, I think this could be very different. They will have to come out to play. Their defense is lacking key players, and they're a little bit all over the place, and Solanke is definitely the kind of player who will capitalize on something like this. Of course, the penalties as well is going to be very beneficial to have with Solanke, with Manchester United occasionally giving away a penalty, as we saw a couple of times against Chelsea not so long ago. So Solanke, think he is a very good pick for this game week, and this Manchester United fixture is definitely an underrated one. Those of you guys who've been watching United recently will have noted how many chances they are conceding at the moment. All Solanke needs to do is get on the end of 1 or 2 of them, and we are going to get some FPL points, please. On the bench, we have got Neto against Manchester United. Despite their defensive fragilities, I do expect United to score against Bournemouth, even though Bournemouth haven't been too bad defensively, but I still think Manchester United, with the players they have, Garnacho, Bruno finding a little bit of form at the moment, maybe Højlund can get involved a little bit more. That would be quite nice, and if so, Maybe Bournemouth do struggle a little bit defensively there. We've got Eze against Liverpool. I don't hate the idea of playing Eze, but I would ideally like to avoid doing that. It's an away fixture. Liverpool defensive numbers are good at the moment. Yes, they are conceding the odd goals, but nothing major. So we're going to leave Eze on the bench for now, preparing for game week 34 and his double game week then. But for now, he stays there. Taylor against Brighton, not expecting too much from him. And Zabani again against Manchester United, not looking to start the Bournemouth man either. And that is my team. We need to make some changes potentially though, and I want to go through what my options are right now. So Kelleher, Estupiñán and Foden are probably the only players I'd be willing to sacrifice at this moment. Now Kelleher has a great fixture against Crystal Palace, and I do think he is going to start this week as well. So ideally, you know, it would be nice to have Kelleher for this game week. However, and there is a big however, he is locking me off from getting a third Liverpool player for the double game week, because I don't think Kelleher is going to start in game week 34. I think he's going to be replaced by Alisson in that starting 11, and therefore Kelleher, by the time we get to the double game week, is going to be not just useless to me, but actually detrimental, because he blocks me off from getting that third Liverpool player for the double game week, which is something I so badly want. So for that reason, I would be willing to sacrifice Kelleher in order to plan for the following game week. Estupiñán is a player I'm always happy to get rid of if I have to. I'm not looking to play him in game week 34. And Burnley is an okay fixture, I guess, but you know, I just don't trust Estupiñán to start, and I don't necessarily completely trust Brighton either, despite their improving defensive numbers. But at the end of the day, Estupiñán is a 4.8 million player who I'm not playing very often. He might just need to go. And Phil Foden is the final player I'd be willing to sacrifice if we get the news that he is not starting. If we don't get any news and it's just a complete mystery about whether Foden will be playing or not, again, that's probably going to mean that I have to sell Foden. It's just not worth the risk. I will not be looking to own Foden in game week 34 anyway. He will be sold at the very least next game week. So maybe I could consider going 1 week early on the sale of Foden this game week. And particularly if he is not starting, it is a no-brainer for me to remove Foden, especially as I will be wildcarding in game week 35 and be able to quickly get him back into my squad if I need to. But if he's no good this game week, I'm already planning on removing him next game week anyway. He may as well go now if he's not starting. He's been a bit of a disaster the last couple of game weeks. Kind of wish I sold him last week, to be honest, but there we go. Let's move on to what kind of players I'm targeting. The goalkeeper I want is Raya this game week. I know it's a difficult game against Aston Villa defensively, but I just believe in Arsenal that much, and Raya at 5.1 million is such a great way to get a cheap, nailed Arsenal defender into your team. Of course, there is Ben White as well at 5.9 million in the defensive category here. I would definitely like to have Ben White in my team, but it's difficult to get to him. I guess I could do some kind of straight move from Estupiñán to Ben White. It wouldn't leave me very much money in the bank though for next week's transfers, I guess. Van Dijk is also a player I would like to have, but again, Kelleher is blocking me off at the moment, so it'd have to be a double change and a -4 if I wanted to get that third Liverpool man in. For midfielders, Ødegaard is on my list, as is McAllister, but the two players I really want are Luis Diaz and Kai Havertz, the 7.6 and 7.3 million men. I want to get these guys into my team. Luis Diaz is the player I want the most for game week 34, although I have to say Kai Havertz is the guy I want for game week 33. The immediate returns that you could get from Havertz seem really, really nice, and I would really like to have that additional Arsenal attacker against an Aston Villa defence I genuinely do believe is quite weak right now, and I think Havertz is the kind of guy who might capitalise on that one. So Luis Diaz and Havertz are the midfielders that I really, really want, but I also do have one eye on the likes of Ødegaard and McAllister, as those two players are perhaps not as potent, maybe not as going to get as many attacking returns, but they are more nailed on for those minutes, which is going to be crucial when we get to double game week 34. So here are my options. First of all, I could just roll the transfer, particularly if we find out Foden is starting. I don't think I really need to make any major changes, and it would be nice to have two transfers to make a double switch in game week 34. If Foden doesn't start, I have some decisions to make. I could either do the straight move from Foden to Havertz, although that does screw me over a little bit in game week 34, and I'll show you why very shortly, and why game week 34 could actually have some problems for me if I did do the move from Foden to Havertz. But at the same time, sometimes you just need to play what's in front of you, and that's something I have been missing from my game a little bit this season, playing what's in front of you. And I believe this is a great opportunity here to go for Kai Havertz. I'm just not sure this is the move to do it in. looking at Game Week 34. Again, we'll go through that shortly. I'll of course also go early on the original plan. The original plan was always to move Foden and Kelleher to Luis Diaz and Raya in Game Week 34. Those are the players I want to have for Game Week 34. Those are my ideal two, Luis Diaz and Raya as my third Arsenal player and my third Liverpool player. But is it going to be viable to take a -4 this game week? Well, I mean, I would rather not take a -4, but again, this causes another problem because I would be taking a -4 this game week, and actually for game week 34, well, I wouldn't really have anything to spend my transfer on pre-wildcard. I don't really know where I would go with that. Again, I'll show you this in a second, guys, but it's a little bit of a mess, actually. Everything I planned hinged on Foden actually starting this game week. So whatever happens, if I have to remove Foden, do one of these moves, the move B or move C, I'm going to have to make some adjustments, I guess, to my Game Week 34 plans. I mean, maybe it could work out even better, technically, but yeah, I'll have to show you what I mean. But for now, I think we have to assume no transfer because, like, where do you go? To be honest, like, where do you go? I need to think about this, and I will have to basically look at my options. I know what my options are. I have 3 options. Roll Foden to Havertz, or Foden and Kelleher to Luis Diaz and Raya to free up that Liverpool slot and take the -4. I'm going to have to make the decision on the deadline day, and I have to make it during the deadline stream on Saturday morning, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. For now, I have to assume I'm going to roll. In terms of captaincy, Erling Haaland with De Bruyne behind him against Luton Town is just too good for me to ignore, so I will be captaining Haaland. But I don't want to disrespect Salah. I'm going to vice-captain Salah. I just don't think he is showing the same potency, form, clinicalness as maybe some other players in the Premier League right now. And actually, I don't think Crystal Palace is as great of a fixture as maybe some people are making it out to be either. But let's go through some of my transfer options and the plans moving forward to Game Week 34. Okay, so as always, we're on the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool. Check it out, link in the description. Great tool for planning out your future game weeks. Exactly what I've been doing, looking at some of my options here. So yeah, this is scenario B, I guess, when I remove Foden for Havertz. This is what my team would look like for Game Week 33, and honestly, it looks pretty good, pretty happy with it. I know the likes of Kelleher, Aït-Nouri, Estupiñán predicted fairly low points, but that doesn't bother me too much. I think they all have very good chances of starting this game week. And to be honest, if Taylor or Zabani have to come off the bench for me, I'm fine with it. Like, not worth making defensive transfers unless you're going for Arsenal players, which is something I would ideally like to avoid making this game week. But moving on to Game Week 34, it leaves me with a bit of a problem because I would have one free transfer. I'd have a little bit of money in the bank, to be fair, but where would I go with my transfer? Because Kelleher, unlikely to start, so does that mean I have to just play Neto? And therefore, where would I spend a transfer? Would I move Zabani out for someone? I couldn't afford to go for Van Dijk. Bradley is probably going to be rotation risk by then. A Liverpool centre-back is always going to be risky. I think Robertson is just out of my reach as well at 6.4 million. Where would I go? Because I feel like maybe if I just restore him, if I go Estupiñán to Robertson, would that potentially work? I mean, maybe. Could I still afford Van Dijk by that point? Possibly, but it's not guaranteed. It's a little bit, it's a very difficult situation if I'm perfectly honest, because I'm very tight for budget for another Liverpool defender if I do go for Havertz this game week. Of course, I would have to remove Kelleher in order to do this one as well. So it would be a -4 to go for a Liverpool defender. So I'm not sure if I 100% like that either. Yeah, it's difficult. If I buy Havertz for Foden this week, it basically means if I want to get that third Liverpool player, I'm going to have to do something pretty crazy involving -4s for a player I probably end up benching, because whoever I replace Kelleher with will probably go straight to the bench. So it's a bit of a nightmare if I do go for Havertz, but I think it may pay off in Game Week 33, so I do think it's potentially still worth it, but it's just that Kelleher situation. Now, alternatively, if it turns out Alisson is going to be out for a little bit longer than expected, and Kelleher is due to play both games in the double game week, then suddenly, actually, things look pretty amazing, actually, and suddenly everything looks very good again. I will have one free transfer to spend on pretty much whatever I want. Again, I'd probably do Zabani to a double game week defender. Maybe I'll go for Munoz. at Crystal Palace, maybe I go for Mikalenko at Everton or something like that. So those are options as well for me potentially, and it would set me up very, very nicely, but that would depend on Kelleher actually starting in Game Week 34, which I don't think is going to happen. We've got our other scenario as well, and that's if we take the -4 this game week and go for Raya and Luis Diaz. Now, I think the Raya and Luis Diaz move, particularly as it's going to cost me a -4 if I do that this game week, actually, I don't know if it scores more than the other option, if going for Havertz, because Raya, I think, yes, there's a good chance of a clean sheet. There always is with Arsenal, but I don't think it's guaranteed against Aston Villa. And Luis Diaz, I do like him as a pick, to be fair, against Crystal Palace, but I think I would prefer to have Havertz this week against Aston Villa, to be fair. And also, if I did take a -4 this game week, Game Week 34, like, where would I spend my transfer? Because I would be 1 week ahead of my transfers. Taking that -4 would put me 1 week ahead of what my planned transfers were. So I would basically have this spare transfer kicking around, don't really know what to do with it. Again, maybe we do a Stupinian to a Mikalenko or a Munoz and replace Zabani in the starting 11. And my team, in fairness, would look pretty good if we're totally honest. It would look pretty amazing, and in fact it would be almost perfect for the game week. So yeah, decisions to be made. Let me know what you prefer out of those two options, option B or option C. Do you like the Havertz move, or do you like taking the -4 this game week? Because I need to make a decision of which one of those I will go for if we get the news that Foden is not going to start, and I will need to be fairly reactive around deadline to solidify that plan. But there are options there for me for sure, and I think both of these scenarios will end up with me having a very strong squad for Game Week 34 without the use of any free hit, and I'll be more than happy to then go into Game Week 35, hopefully with a nice green arrow and a wild card in hand for the final stretch of the season. The plan is coming together, but we do need to make some few final tweaks in it if we do get that Foden news. So yes, guys, let me know what you think. What would you do if you were in my scenario? And make sure you do like the video before you disappear as well. It's massively appreciated. Do subscribe if you're new around as well, because we're going to have more videos tomorrow and a big deadline stream as well as we approach the Game Week 33 deadline. Make sure you check out another video if you would like to. Plenty of Game Week 33 content on my channel right now. But until next get a video, I suppose I will see you later, mate. Bye-bye.